I'm now well aware that 4 days after the Eagles got absolutely trounced at the SCG, that there is no video or statement that I can make is anything new about West Coast's performance. But considering that they are going to have a mass list overhaul, not just at the end of this year, but the end of multiple years, the topic of pick one is going to be on the table. Should they trade it? Should they not? Who are the teams that have a legitimate chance at trading up for it? What are some of the bullshit rumours that are going about? And one person's opinion that in mine is just ridiculously stupid. So let's talk about it. Let's have a good, honest footy chat about whether West Coast should trade pick one and give up a talent like Harley Reid and what that would look like for the footy club. Let's go. And once again, Capital Edge have jumped on for this video. More about them at the end of the video, so stick around for that. And if you subscribe to the video and join the Daz Talks Footy family, I would really appreciate that. So, 171 points, disaster. And now, Paul Fitzpatrick, who was the only man in Australia who thought that West Coast weren't going to win the Wooden Spoon a month ago, can now finally admit that they are. Which, of course, means that they're going to get pick one, which, for basically 2 years now, we knew was going to be Harley Reid, who responded after an unfortunate concussion against Carlton's VFL side, kicked 4 goals, 3 from 11 disposals, playing out of the goal square. Now, admittedly, fellow top 5 draft candidate Nate Caddy kicked 6 goals, 4 from 25 disposals and 9 marks in the exact same game, but no one's going to talk about that. I wonder why. But anyway, back to Harley. I have been asked by some people whether I'm something of a Harley hater or a detractor, and to just answer that right now, no, absolutely not. The kid's 18 years of age. If you hate an 18-year-old that's not even played AFL footy yet, what is wrong with you? What I won't do is add to the pile-on that he is getting from media outlets describing him, if you listen to everyone, as a cross between Dustin Martin and Chris Judd. He is the next Dustin Martin, Christian Petrarca, and Gary Ablett Jr. rolled into one. Someone will probably come out and say he's the next senior at this point. But this kid is being hyped as the GOAT before he's even started. I think of the recent number 1 pick in the NBA, Victor Wembanyama, who could legitimately be a top 10 player of all time. But the way that he gets hyped is going to seem to be a bust. My expectations for Harley is to hopefully be the best version of himself he can be and enjoy a very long and successful career. That's what he deserves, as does everyone that gets drafted. Do I know that's not a possibility for everyone? Yes, but I'm not going to barrack for that at any point. That is ridiculous. But I'm also not going to make any comparisons to him. It is a fait accompli that he's going to be pick one. That's where I stand. Now, it's going to be pretty difficult to answer this question at the pretty much the beginning or of round 16, I should say. But the answer to should West Coast trade pick one does wildly depend on their off-season moves. I understand that. But let's talk about if they do keep him, which for the Eagles would relatively be a good thing. They get a generational talent who fits a spot that they need. They need more midfielders. Luke Shuey, Elliot Yeo, and Tim Kelly cannot be the only guys at centre bounces. Harley Reid eventually rolling into there with the help of Ruben Jinby and those mature veterans would be nice. Guys like Dom Sheed can either go to a wing or not be at the football club anymore, although I think that's more likely to Gaff than Sheed. Sheed was probably one of the only few players that could hold their head, at least not at their kneecaps, after what West Coast did, with Shuey being the other one who was actually good on the weekend, and Elliot Yeo laid plenty of tackles, but he can't be your 80% centre bounce attendance guy. So basically, good news for West Coast is keeping pick one is not going to be an inconvenience for them. It's not like there are 3 guys up for the number 1 pick spot, and they would have to make a difficult decision that could set them back a little bit. If things don't work out with Harley at this point in time, it doesn't look like that's going to be for a lack of talent. And again, I hope that that's not the case, and no matter where he plays, he ends up being an extremely good footballer. But if West Coast do keep pick one, they know who they're going to get. Beautiful. It's now up to them to keep developing, keep getting their squad through, and building something towards a premiership window when he, and like a lot of their draftees in the last 2 or 3 years, start hitting their prime. So if your answer here is nope, they should definitely keep pick 1, I mean, I'd hope you stick around for the rest of the video because it helps me analytically, but that's the answer for that point of view. The other point of view is trading pick 1. Now, who could legitimately trade up for pick 1? There aren't that many options. Gold Coast definitely can't, although I've heard some people talk about them a little bit. But considering that they've got Jed Walter and Jake Rogers, who are going to be academy picks in the top, I think, 20 at this point, they're pretty much out of it at this point. You're not going to have pick 1 and then find the draft points to match a bid for Jed Walter that could come at pick 2. They're not going to do that. I've heard some talk about Carlton even, with Tom DeConning and plenty of players. I don't think that's viable at all, although, yes, for Carlton, that would be awesome. The midfield is something that they do have plenty of, though, so, is it really worth it? Now, for Carlton's sake, yes, generational talent would really work. They do have dead wood on their list that would help the well-roundedness of West Coast side, but I don't think that West Coast are in a position to bring in 24 to 28-year-olds, finish out their career as they try to get their kids through. You either go down the Hawthorn path, which is clear out all of them, only have one bloke on your list over the age of 30, and go from there. And we've seen how inconsistent Hawthorn's results are, especially outside of Victoria or Tasmania, where in all 5 of their losses, except for Gather Round, they've lost by over 50 points interstate, because their current method of some veterans, some leadership has not worked, albeit, yes, injuries, COVID, but I kind of get sick of that excuse a little bit. 171 points is blatantly unacceptable, and we know that. West Coast have had 4 100-point losses in the last 2 months. In their entire history, Collingwood has had 7. So, at some point, you just got to admit that shit ain't working. And they know that. So who are the teams that genuinely could go for it? Well, in my mind, there are really only 2. The first one, less likely, is Melbourne, who at this point, at the time of recording, if you are watching this later and the ladder has changed, do not comment below telling me I am manipulating draft picks. I'm not. But it's pick 8, pick 15, and then they've got pick 27. That is at this point. Okay? Now, those 3 on their own don't get it done. Now, could you do those 3 and an asset? I mean, sure. Could you do 8, 15, and a future first? Yes, and probably something else in there as well. You'd hopefully keep 27 and maybe, the 3 firsts and a second. Maybe you get pick 1 and then a third back from the Eagles or something of that description. But as we sit right now, Melbourne do have a chance in order to get their resources, their natural resources, and then build up a package to give to West Coast. The other team, of course, the one more likely, is GWS, who currently have pick 5, pick 7, but then a pick in the 40s, which is a bit of a problem. They would have to rely on pick 5, pick 7, and then getting another pick in this draft, or of course they could get rid of both of those and their future first next year, and potentially even something else. You are going to have to pay a ransom for pick 1. All of these mock trades that I keep seeing do not work if West Coast don't win the trade before they've made a selection. That's how this works. This isn't 2001, where Hawthorn gave up Trent Crode and a young Luke McFarlane, well, they were both young at that point, and got the draft pick that landed them Luke Hodge at pick 1 and Sam Mitchell at pick 36. There was a pick in between there, and the poor bastard that was taken in there isn't really talked about like Hodge and Mitchell, which I have great sympathy for. Where the Giants would obviously do well in this trade is Harley Reid would help lead a new generation, whilst Kelly, Cornelio, and Tom Green are still playing unbelievable football. Harley Reid gives them another forward threat along with Jesse Hogan, and depending if Jake Riccardi and Harry Himmelberg stay, Aaron Cadman is still developing. Of course, Toby is still down there. A massive win for the Giants, and I think the most likely team to trade up to try to get him. But stop doing these mock trades for pick 1 that don't work. And I'm actually going to go after my own here. Hawthorn fans. Now, admittedly, I do run not only my Twitter account at RaceNight8, if you want to follow and have a chat. I talk about things more than just footy, so go ahead and do that if you want to. But I also run the alternative media Talking Hawks Twitter account with some other people. And the amount of Hawthorn people, Hawthorn accounts that are suggesting trading Tyler Brockman, Denver Granger Barris, and pick 3 for pick 1 makes me sad, because West Coast don't win that at all. An unproven small forward at this point, an unproven centre half back, and potentially, who do they get at pick 3? Nick Watson would be really nice, but the midfielders on offer, if you don't get Harley Reid for your midfield, which is what they really need with their older players, the next best midfielder in the draft is either Riley Sanders or Colby McKercher. Neither of those, I think, are pick 3. They're your Nate Caddy, who is your forward threat, your Zane Dersma, your forward threat, Nick Watson, your forward threat. No one's going to touch Jed Walter at Gold Coast, so I don't even know why I brought him up. If you want to be one of those people that rates Ashton Moyer as high as he could possibly be, that's fine. But that doesn't work for West Coast at all. They've already got a young key defender that they're pairing with Tom Barras in Rhett Bazzo. I don't know why they would want Denver in that kind of trade. It would be a future pick of some kind for that. And Tyler Brockman loves the Hawthorn Footy Club. So please, if you are putting mock trades together, no matter who you barrack for, West Coast need to win the trade before they make a selection. You are giving up pick 1. I don't care about Harley Reid at this point. You're giving up first dibs. You're giving up dibs in the draft. And people are like, oh yeah, a pick here, a pick there, and a player. Done. I did see a Carlton mock trade that said Tom De Koning, Zach Fisher, and a first round pick. Not this year's, which would be pick 4. Next year's. Stop it. But, enough of that rant. Let's get to the actual question. Should West Coast trade pick 1? I'm actually going to go against the grain here and say no. I think West Coast need to target guys who aren't getting a full run at their club at the moment and see what they can do. I think they need to be, the Jaden Hunt trade doesn't look that great at the moment, but he does try his guts out. Yes, he's been inconsistent, but those players, I think, with Harley Reid is going to end up rounding out the Eagles list better in order to get the rebuild started than it will be getting a pick 5 and a pick 7 in. Call it someone who's a bit skeptical with the Jack Watts, Jack Trengove, Jack Grimes kind of situation, although Grimes wasn't that early pick. Jimmy Toumpas was an early pick there. Now, you could say Melbourne just got that wrong if you want to, but it's no secret that their young players who didn't have all that great veteran leadership struggle to flourish and be their best. So do they go after, a Jeremy Sharp? Do they go after a Devin Robertson from the Lions? Do they go after Zach Fisher from the Blues? These guys that are playing VFL football who are, probably anywhere between the 20th and 26th player to help bridge the gap while still being semi-young and can still hit a prime, I think will help West Coast better. Now, they don't have to go out and get 6 or 8 of these players, but Harley Reid plus a few, let's say 3 of those players, and some other draft picks as well, is worth looking at. And then, once they get something solid under their feet, with a new coach, first of all, and a new fitnessing staff, now I know that one of them's already been let go at the end of the season, then you can start. But there is a sense that you need to stem the bleeding and get the generational talent in and go from there. If you are going to let anyone hold you at ransom to say after 2 years I'm going to leave, you don't have faith in your own footy culture. And that's pretty disgraceful. I don't know whether that stopped people taking someone like Archie Perkins or how disappointing Tanner Bruin looked getting drafted by the Giants. And even if that's true, look at the Jason Horne-Francis thing. I can hear you typing before you press comment. North are looking pretty okay out of that deal so far. They look okay. Could Horne-Francis end up being the best player in the competition? Sure. Is that trade a loss as it stands when they made it? No. And if West Coast do take Harley Reid in this draft and in 2 years he wants to go, can you imagine the ransom they're going to get for him? I think they're going to get more for him as a player who's begun his career than they will as a player who hasn't yet. Now, of course, the worst case scenario in all this is that Harley ends up becoming injury riddled. But bringing that into the equation, and knock on wood that does not happen, is silly at this point in time. So if I'm West Coast, keep the pick, let all the amazing offers come through, and if there's one you truly can't resist, by all means look at it. But I am 99% keep him, back yourself in for 2 years, Reshape your entire footy club, which you should be doing anyway. Let some of your veterans go. Get some more depth in your list and go from there. And if he still wants to leave in a couple of years, get an absolute bucket load for him. Because if he stays long enough to become a free agent, West Coast, as the richest club with one of the best grand final strike rates of any side, they're probably going to be okay. And that's what they'll be aiming for. So I'm personally on the side of keep him. But if I'm also on the side of GWS, go hard for him. Really hard. And I think that Harley Reid will not be in Victoria next year. I don't think Melbourne are going to come up with the assets. I don't think Carlton are going to be able to do it. And no other Victorian club for mine are even going to come close to offering what's required. So, good luck, Harley. I hope you enjoy playing interstate, and I hope you have an amazing career. What do you guys think? If you're a West Coast supporter or not, what would it take for you to give up the number 1 draft pick? Should West Coast trade the number 1 draft pick? Comment below, let me know. Like the video if you like the video. It helps more people see the channel and the video so they could potentially join the Daz Talks Footy family. Click that subscribe button, and as always, thank you so much to Capital Edge for sponsoring this video. They are your leaders in the investment property business with residential property education specialists on board to get you started on your real estate investment journey. So check them out at capitaledge.com.au, or you can DM them on Facebook. So thank you so much to them. Thank you even more to you guys. Have a great weekend. I'll see you next time.